And welcome. Welcome back to the Profit Lab. I'm your host, Marie Torossian, CPA and 10X certified business coach, and I am so glad you are here. If you're new to the show, go ahead and subscribe or follow wherever you're watching us or listening us on. New episodes drop every Wednesday at noon Eastern on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and any other channel that you can think of. You can find it at your channels of your choice. This episode is episode number 12. Give me a moment to put this completely down. All right, so this episode is episode number 12, and we're talking about something that ties everything we've been discussing so far, which is the 10X mindset. I mean, you can have all the systems and the strategies and the team and the world, but if your mindset isn't right, you'll hit a ceiling. And on the flip side, if your mindset is very strong, but your execution is sloppy, you'll be in burnout and you won't be hitting those goals and successes. So today we're going to talk about how to think bigger, taking massive action, and sustaining growth without the burnout. Does that sound like good? All right. So let's get into it. What is the 10X mindset really? I get asked this question a lot, and the 10X mindset is actually from Mr. Grant Cardone, the 10X, Mr. 10X himself. And it's simply as this: set goals 10 times bigger than what you think is possible and take 10 times the action. If you haven't read the 10X rulebook, I highly recommend it. And that's going to give you a little bit more deep dive into what Mr. 10X Grant Cardone has written all about. And this is where a lot of my coaching combines the 10X mindset into a lot of that financial things that we've talked about. But as we talk about 10X mindset, let me clarify something, because a lot of people misunderstand this. 10X is not, work 10 times harder forever. 10X is not sleep 3 hours a night and then grind until you drop, you don't want to get to a point where complete exhaustion. That's not the point. 10X is not about just, continuing on and on and on without, and ever getting rest. So, even, in the Bible, it says, you have to take some rest sometime, right? So we want to make sure that we are taking rest when needed. However, what 10X is all about is raising your standard and expanding what you believe you can create, and then matching that with a consistency and disciplined action. All right, I'm gonna go over that again. I know it's a lot of content there, just in those two sentences. So 10X is all about raising your standard and expanding what you believe you can create, then matching that with a consistency and disciplined action. So it's not just thinking big, but you have to match that with the right action. Here's a quick example. I love giving examples because we want to, as I mentioned before, this podcast is all about real actionable items. I want you to be able to listen for 20 minutes and really go out there and take action. So I love giving examples. So let's think about a service-based business owner might say, hey, I want to grow from 750,000 a year to 900,000 a year. That is a normal goal. But when you bring it up to a 10X level, this is how you question yourself. What would it take for me to build a business that can hit 1.5 million to $2 million without me having to work so many hours, right? So we're thinking a lot bigger. So from 750 to 900 versus 750 to $1.5 million to $2 million. That's a big shift. You have to take so much more action to be able to hit that target. But here's the thing. Some people would be like, well, but that's so far out there. It's so high. And what if I don't hit that? And I have your answer right there. If you don't hit that full 10X, whatever that big number is, your thinking changes, right? And the way you make decision changes. So you start asking yourself, like, what has to happen in order for me to get to that target? What do I need to stop doing in order to get to that target? Who do I need to become as a leader, right? It always comes back to us too. You can have a team, but if you're not a good leader, your team is not going to perform. What systems and team members do I need to hit that goal? So when you're pushing yourself to think much bigger, right, you're going to take different kinds of action. So, and that's real power. All right. So I want to now transition into what I call the 4 pillars of the 10X mindset. Okay. You're good with that? Let's go. Pillar number 1, think bigger. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I want to go a little bit more deep dive here. Most business owners set goals based on what feels realistic. And, and realistic goals can get to normal, realistic results. So I want you to think about what has been in your past. How have you set your goals before? Have there even been any goals or targets for you to hit? Or has it just been go with the flow, whatever comes my way? And that makes all the shift. So here's an example for you. You could be an agency owner that says, hey, I want 3 more clients. But if you want to think bigger, you might say, what would it take to become the go-to agency for this one niche and adding 20 clients over the next year without breaking down? That's a whole different kind of a question. Do you agree? Here's another example. It could be a CPA firm. The owner could say, hey, I want to raise prices a bit. And this is, I know something that most CPAs struggle with is raising prices. But here's how you can change the question by thinking bigger. What would it take to double my profits by maybe packaging more advisory services and then pruning the low margin clients? Oof. I know this brings such fear. And many business owners are afraid to prune and cut down on the clients that are difficult, that are low margin, and they need all these extra things and they don't want to pay for it. Unfortunately, you're in the business of, to be profitable and be able to take care of your family, your community, your church, and all of that. So if you can't make money, you're not going to be able to make an impact into your community, right? So when you change the way you're asking those questions and you start thinking bigger, what does that look like for you? Here's another example. An IT provider might say, hey, I want fewer fires from different clients, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But here's how you can think differently and much bigger. What would it take to move clients onto a managed services so the business is proactive, not reactive? So if you have these clients that are doing one-off projects, it's like, hey, let's just test cybersecurity, once a year or twice a year. That's like a project. But what if you get them to be on a managed services, like on recurring revenue for you and recurring support for them? So there's no fires to put off every time. It's more like a systematic service that they get. Wouldn't that be more beneficial to them as well? So thinking bigger doesn't mean being, recklessly putting these crazy numbers out there. And I know I was in that shoes. I remember back in 2019, just trying to do consulting on my own. And I definitely wasn't thinking this big, right? And it takes some effort on your part as a leader to change the way you ask the questions. Where am I going? So I remember thinking maybe, I don't know, I want to make $500,000. I know in 2019, that was like out of the question. I was not even thinking about that, right? But down the road, now I'm thinking already 10 million. So you have to start asking yourself those think bigger questions and then push yourself to that next place so that your next idea, the next number that's on your mind is bigger and bigger. And then you keep pushing for that big, big goal that will really make a big difference in your life. Otherwise, there's really no excitement about it. Do you agree? So your current results are not your potential. They're your current system. And that's why, I have the Profit Lab. I built that company with the tagline being empowering your potential, because we all have the potential to do more. And until you really face that and commit to that, you won't be able to make any changes. So think about this. Your current results are not your potential. It's your current system. So what can you do differently to work towards your potential instead? just wanted to, in the meantime, make sure to remind you guys to subscribe, like, follow, and share. Please, please, please. I really want to grow my channel, and your support means so much to me. So just wanted to put a quick reminder to please help me expand my reach, and that way we can help each other. Okay. So pillar number 2. So we said we're going to talk about 4 pillars. So now we're talking pillar number 2, taking massive action. Average action is going to get you average results. Massive action is going to get massive result. But massive action doesn't mean that you're doing everything, and it's not, it's in different directions and very random. 10x action is actually very focused on volume, and it's very intentional. It's going towards the right direction. So, for example, in sales, my apologies, I'm overcoming a little cold. Instead of, let's say, in sales, you're a salesperson, or maybe yourself, you follow up once with a client that you didn't close, you can follow up 10 times. Of course, being professional and consistent. One of the things I've noticed, when I'm doing CPE credits or when I'm training, people, I'll ask, how many times do you follow up? And I'm surprised to hear that some people don't even follow up. That's crazy. You have to think about different ways of approach and different ways of touch points you can do to follow up with prospects that didn't close at the time. They might have so many other things happening in their life, and it's not on you. It's not that you did something wrong, but by doing that follow-up, you're staying on track. So you do once or you do 0, I want you to 10x that. So instead of one follow up 10 times, maybe every other day, every 3 days. So you break it down to those 10 touch points. Another stat I wanted to give you, and this is from Mr. Grant Cardone as well, is that it takes 5 to 12 contacts for someone to actually take action. So if you're giving up after one follow-up, you're totally, leaving money on the table. Okay. Let's think about content. Let's say you're doing social media and you're posting once in a while when you feel like it, you just do it. I think of something, I post. So here's how you can shift that to take massive action. You commit to doing, let's say, 2 short videos per week, 1 long form video, and 5, let's say, shorter clips that you are repurposing. Or it could be, I'm doing 1 post a week to 1 post a day. But it's not just saying I'm going to do it. It's about actually doing it. Right? That's a whole different thing. A lot of people say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I see it all the time. And then, especially with coaching mentees, and then they'll show up next week. They've done 1/3 of it, maybe. So if you want to commit, then it means you have to take action. So that's where coaching is helpful, because we help keep you accountable. We push you a little bit and get you out of your comfort zone to make sure that you're taking that massive action. For example, in your business, the partner or, the business owner, the leader maybe goes to 1 networking event per month. So you can shift that. You say, hey, I want to be committed to going to 1 networking event every week. And I'm going to do 5 conversations within that week. So that actually start building momentum in your business, right? So if your pipeline is thin, you don't need a new logo. This is how you can make, a lot of people go back to like, oh, my logo, I got to change my logo. It takes 3 months to get a logo. I mean, the logo is not going to make anyone buy anything from you, right? So if you don't have enough leads in your pipeline, you don't need a new logo. You don't need a new website. You just need to take more action on things that actually get you leads, right? If you're having conversations, but there's no conversion into sale, you don't need more leads. You need better messaging. Maybe there's something about the messaging, or that you're not doing enough follow-ups and touch points, right? Say your delivery times are inconsistent, they're chaotic. This is where you don't try to go get more clients. You try to fix the system, right? Fix the system. So whatever it is that you choose to work on, make sure that it's the right thing for you to do and put that massive action on. So massive action is doing the right actions long enough to create momentum. All right. I'm going to pause that for a minute. All right. You don't mind me taking a sip of water? Like I said, I'm overcoming a little cold. In March, I was traveling. I went to a speaking engagement in Dallas. I came back, and I was at a different conferences with 10X. I was actually in another conference, 10X Business Summit, last weekend. So, and my daughter was sick. So it's only a matter of time, right? So you catch something. So, but I'm overcoming it. So I feel a lot better today. And I'm here with you. Okay. Let's get into pillar number 3, which is embracing discomfort. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. Have you heard that before? Yeah, that's what I mean. So growth happens outside of your comfort zone. If you're comfortable where you're at, you're going to become complacent and you're not going to be growing. So let's give some examples on what does discomfort look like, right? Maybe raising prices and, is the most uncomfortable thing for you to do. Guess what? That's what you should probably be doing. Saying no to, the clients that are not a good fit. Maybe you're uncomfortable saying that, but at some point you have to build that courage to say, do these clients that I'm talking to fit the goal that I'm going after, right? It's not just the income. It's more like the type of people you want to work with. And we talked about this in prior episodes. So feel free to go back and check out some of the prior episodes. This is 12. So there's already quite a few before that. Go back and check each and every one of them. I'm sure you're going to get some value from all of it. Let's say you have team members that are not performing, and having those difficult conversations are uncomfortable for you. But guess what? If you don't have those conversations, will they actually do better? Will it actually result towards the goal that you're trying to go to, right? So you have to build those skills to be able to have those difficult conversations. In some cases, you're trying to be the control freak and you don't let anyone else do what you do because you're the best. I get that. However, letting someone else do at 80% as good as you can actually give you the opportunity to scale. So how can you shift your mindset and be uncomfortable letting someone do it at 80%, and then you give them the other support of 20%, right? The other thing that I see a lot of people really super struggle with is posting on social media. And a few of the things that I hear them say is like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable. I don't want to put myself out there. What if they, hate what I'm posting? What if, I get this bad feedback? And I hear you. And I was there too. It was not easy posting content. And matter of fact, the first probably, 6 to 10 months of posting back in 2018, 2019 timeframe, I don't even know what I was posting. I was posting motivational things because maybe I needed for myself. I just didn't know what to post, but I was posting. I knew I had to post. I was posting every day. It was just not the right thing I was posting, right? But with training, I got to learn what is it that's going to work. So over time, I shifted that. So I know the feeling of not knowing what to post or feeling uncomfortable posting. And you know what? People are going to be hating you all the time. But guess what? Here's what I want you to think. People that are hating on you have already given up on their dreams. Let me say that again. People who are hating you have already given up on their dreams, but you haven't. So keep posting. Why do you care what they think when they've given up on themselves? So surround yourself with people, coaches like myself, to help support you, right? So yeah, these are the different examples of like how you could be in discomfort, but you have to push yourself through. Let's see. Let's give another example. Here's one. Say you raise your prices and only 2 out of your 10 prospects say no. That's not a failure. You just have to differentiate how you think. It's like, it's your positioning. Now you're working with a different group of people, right? That are willing to pay the price. So if 2 of them paid, that means there's still that opportunity. The other 8 were not the right fit. So you have to feel that, get to a point of that comfort saying, here's what I'm going, here's my new pricing. If people don't fit that, they're just not the right fit. And that's okay. They can go work with somebody else, right? So that's a decision that you have to get to at some point, to be able to say, okay, this makes me this uncomfortable, but I'm at this point comfortable making those decisions. Something that I've heard many times from my mentors as well is, discomfort is often the signal that you're doing something right. So go ahead. If something feels uncomfortable, that's probably the right thing to do, right? It's the same thing goes like for if you're trying to sell something, or if you're trying to buy something and feels uncomfortable, it's probably the right thing to do. Okay. Now let's get to pillar number 4, which is taking full responsibility. I cannot tell you how many people just have so many excuses on why something is not happening. It's all blaming someone else, and they're the victim and all of that. So you want to get rid of that kind of mindset as soon as possible. That's really not going to help you get to your next goal. If you're going to blame everybody else around you, number 1, get out of that environment, that soil that's not helpful to you, if that's really the case, so that you can actually surround yourself with people that support you. They help you grow and pull you up with them. But in your mindset, you also have to stop saying, oh, it's their fault, it's their fault. It's like, what can I do differently? How can I stop giving these excuses so I can move forward? I can go towards my goal. So what you're doing here is just, you're controlling your decisions, your standards, your follow through. You're controlling your calendar. You have no idea how many times I've seen business owners that don't even use their calendar. I mean, how do you know how many hours of time you're putting on the business or in the business, whichever it is? How do you know where your time is going? I personally, not only do I lock in 15-minute increments of everything that I do from the minute I wake up to the time that I sleep, but I color code it, because sometimes I'm coaching, sometimes I'm working with accounting clients, sometimes I'm reviewing accounting work for my team, sometimes I'm having team meetings. So there's sometimes going to be like talking to prospects. So there's so many different things I'm doing, and I've color coded everything. I volunteer. So all of that is color coded. So I'm not confused when I see something, not colored in my calendar. I'm like, whoa, where did that time go? I want to know. No time is wasteful. Your biggest asset is your time. And if you cannot control that time, your calendar, that's like time going out the door for useless things, and you don't know what happened. So definitely, get into the control. And then of course, boundaries. When do people get to reach you, right? After hours, is there a boundary there with your clients, and when they can reach you and when they cannot, right? Here's some other things to think through. If things that you're saying to yourself, for example, oh, my team is horrible, it's like you're throwing the blame on them. But how about if you ask yourself, have I trained my team? Have I documented the process for them to follow? Have I properly set clear expectations and accountability of what I want them to do and how to perform? So if you haven't done that, that's on you, not on them. So you're the leader. You have to set that standard and expectation. So change the words that you're using. Just shift those words, the way you say it, and a lot more better things are going to come your way, right? When you say, oh my goodness, I have no leads coming in. So you can switch that again. You can talk about, okay, what is our weekly lead generation? How many do we get? So now going back to data, we've talked about data. How many leads are coming in? How are we following up? How many calls does it take for us to convert the prospect into a client? So instead of just finding a blame, like, oh, there's not good leads, you could be more like, what is working in our when we get a lead, what is working in our process and what is not working. Responsibility is power, and it gives you many options. So shift the blame, no excuses, no victim mindset. Take responsibility on all your actions, and then see how things will change for you. So next, I want to go into avoiding burnout while you're trying to grow and scale your business. Obviously, you can't sustain like 10x action if you're running on empty, like no energy, So one of the things you want to focus on, like, where is my time going? And as you notice, I've given these examples in different episodes. If you've been following me all this time, you want to think about where my time is going. How's my energy being spent? Your energy is important. Your energy unit is what keeps you healthy and strong. So if you are empty, you can't do anything. Just plain and simple. So think about, where's your time going? This is why calendaring is so important. So if you're doing $10 an hour work instead of $1,000 an hour work, there's like that's time that's going to the wrong thing, right? Your energy is being spent on something else that could be delegated. Maybe you don't have boundaries or systems in place to take off some of these minutia stuff from you, or the boundaries of clients or team members that are constantly, I don't know, you might have had this where team members constantly ask you for like, how do I do this? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? And you're like, how many times do I have to explain this thing? So how about you recording it the way it needs to be done? And then next time they ask the question, say, go check the video, right? Protect your energy unit, protect it. Let's say you're going after, increasing revenue, but your profit is shrinking as we talk about it. So I was actually working with a coaching mentee the other day, and he makes about 1.5 million with 3 different locations for Pilates and spinning, 2 spinning. But he's in a deficit. So one of the things is like, well, yeah, you're making 1.5 million in revenue, but you're in a deficit. So we need to start bringing that profit up to like 20 to 30%. So that's the goal. You want to focus on the right thing. So if your energy is going on the wrong things, just the revenue, but you're not looking at all your numbers, what's happening? So based on his situation, I know there's way too many people. A lot of salaries are going out, and I'm not saying cut off people. It's like, how do we shift that so the salaries of the people that he's paying for actually increase revenue, right? So you want to have that ratio in the correct order. And that's what I mean. When you're chasing revenue, you're like, hey, I make a 1.5 million, but then there's no profit, right? That means your business is going to fail. So you got to protect your time and put your time and energy on the right thing. Maybe you're working constantly in the business instead of on the business. You're doing less strategic planning for your business on where you're going, the vision of it, and then getting the team to follow you there. And you're just in there doing minutia work. And then maybe you're carrying everything in your mind. We talked about processes in a few episodes ago. So go back and get those things out of your mind. Make it a process. It's documented. Maybe it's video recorded. I'm going to put the link to Otter AI again, because that's a great way to not only record meetings and agendas and get things going. And there's also Loom Video, where you can record your screen. If it's something that you do like on your computer, you can actually record that and then have the team follow along. That's how I've passed a lot of the work to my team. So I gave one example, but I want to give you another example. Let's assume a business owner hits 1 million in revenue, but has 10% profit, which is not bad. But they're stressed out. There's cash is tight, and they're working in the business constantly. Now let's give another example of another owner that's possibly making 500,000 a year, but with a 30% profit, a stable schedule, a team that runs everything in the delivery. Who do you think is actually winning in this situation? The one who's making $1 million, or the one who's making 500K? Of course, the second one, the 500K, because they have a business that supports their life, right? They're not in the business going bananas. So let me regroup here with some, key things you can do to sustainably grow your business without burning out. Number one, we talked about protecting your energy. If you don't protect your energy, your business will take it. So it's going to eventually show up in the business. Something's going to break, or you're going to get sick and you're going to have to be away, but your systems are not there and your team is not there to support you. So maybe every week now, set up time. Maybe it's Saturday morning. I like working on the business Saturday morning because I'm not distracted by any coaching calls, any accounting client calls. I'm just working on the business. And it could be like 3 hours in the morning while the whole family is sleeping. There's no calls, there's no distractions. 3 hours on the business. So maybe that's the day for you. Maybe it's Sunday, whichever it is. So pick a day, block 3 to 4 hours so you can focus on the business and you know where you're going. Highly recommend delegating as much as possible. If you're still doing all the scheduling, the invoicing, all the follow-ups, basic admin, just find out in your team who has to do it. Okay. And if you're still small enough, let's say, hey, it's just me and maybe a couple of people, that's okay. You can always hire people, let's say from Fiverr or other outsourced areas to do certain type of work for you in project-based. So you pass it on. You don't do it. Try to give yourself back 10 hours a week. That could really change how you do your work and how you grow your business. Just wanted to put one more thing here. Yeah, I'm going to be ready for that. Okay, number 3, focus also on your profit, not just your revenue. Okay, so instead of, let's say, adding 5 clients that are low margin and have too much complicated requests, right? Instead, maybe raise your prices 10% to 20%, tighten the scope, be very structured on what you deliver, and then improve that delivery efficiency. And then just get rid of those that are, not helping out, right? And build systems that scale. If you're doing something more than twice, document it. As I talked about, you can do Loom or Otter. You can talk it into a Word document. I mean, there's so many different ways. If you're going to do it, you can do it. And no excuses. Don't tell me, I have to set aside time. No. When you're doing the task, you record it. And that means it's done. You don't have to set aside time for it. So don't be the bottleneck. Delegate, set the structure and systems in place so your business can grow. Remember, 10x growth without systems is just 10x stress. So we don't want to have the stress. We want to put that away. All right. So let's transition now into how can you turn this into a 90-day plan? I mean, this is all about you taking action. I'm not doing this podcast just for the sake of doing a podcast. I really want to make a difference and impact and help you put the structures in place in your business. So for this week, I want you to pick one goal you're going to 10x, whatever that is. And then 3 massive actions you're going to do weekly. And then track it on some kind of a dashboard. It could be your leads, it could be your sales calls, maybe your profit margin you want to start tracking, maybe your cash runway, like how many months I have enough cash for. Maybe it's the way you're delivering, maybe time of delivery. So if something needs to be delivered, let's say you think it should be in a week, but it's getting done in like 30 days. So what do you need to do to shrink that timeline? So it could be anything. It could be raising the prices. I gave you a lot of examples. So I want you to think about it. Pick one goal, 3 massive actions, and then track it in the next 90 days. Okay. All right. I know this was a lot, but I know it was impactful. So feel free to put in the comments your thoughts, your action items. Okay. And I'm going to, while I prep for giving you your profit question of the week. So here it is. What's one bold 10x goal you've been afraid to set? What would it take to go after it in the next 90 days? I'm going to say it again. What's one bold 10x goal you've been putting off, you've been afraid to do? And what would it take for you to go after it in the next 90 days? Okay. All right. Here's the actionable takeaways for today. Just reminding you from before. set one 10x goal, 3 massive actions you're going to take to move forward toward that goal, right? Track it. The other thing I want you to work on is your auditing your time and energy. How can you shift into protecting your time and energy, your headspace, so you can avoid that burnout? Okay. All right, guys. This is a wrap for episode 12 of the Profit Lab podcast. At this point, we've covered the entire valuation MT methodology. We talked about vision and value clarity, assessment and analysis, leverage and leadership, upgrading systems and operations, elevating pricing and positioning, amplifying your revenue streams, team building and delegation, implementation and integration, optimization and scale, next level growth, and now the 10x mindset that ties it all together. If you've been following along and taking action, you're way ahead of 90% of business owners. So I hope you've been taking action. Okay. I already gave you the profit question of the week and the 10x actions. If you need my help, implementing any of these, I'm going to put in the my web link there, website URL. And here, let me do it now. All right. And you just go to theprofitlab.biz and then click the book my call and just book a strategy call with me. And let's have a discussion and build your profit together. Thanks for being here. I'm Marie Torossian, and I'll see you next week as we continue this journey. There'll be more information and conversations that I'm going to have with you. Remember, your business should fund your life, not consume it. So let's make that happen. See you next week.